there is no right or wrong way to do anything in life. Whether it's business, investing, family, friends, anything you can possibly conjure in your mind, there is no right or wrong way to do it. There is, on a human level, an ego-based system evaluation to where we determine what is good and what is bad, and give it like ratings based on performance. But in the grand scheme of things, life is a spectrum. We tend to categorize things in just good and bad, and there's just a spectrum for everything. There's an in between, and we tend to just radicalize what we believe in. So I don't know really what the point of this video is. I kind of just want to ramble my thinkings, and if you like it, then awesome. If you don't, then that's also awesome as well, and however you choose to perceive it. But yeah, I mean, we kind of live this life. Ooh, what's going on? Come back, baby, come back. We live in this lifestyle where a lot of people just like, there's like notable influencers, like big time guys, and like everyone listens to them, and that's why like culture is so like adaptive, like why so many people try to conform and to fit in and are afraid to stray from the norm, because we're a conformative society. We try to blend in as much as we can, but like, we've lost that sense of individuality and creativity that like, not that I was in the 50s, but like from what like it just seems like people had is just much more creativity, innovation, to where now it's like everything's just on media. And not to say I don't like Rogan, I do like Rogan, but it's like everyone tries to be like Rogan, or everyone tries to think like Rogan, or everyone tries to think like what's that other guy, like Huberman, or like all these other big influencers on YouTube or social media or whatever you may have. So like you just get and it trickles from like the younger generations to like teens and like early 20s who are just like misguided, and they just want to have some sort of a role model. And not to say again, like these guys are offering some great advice and you can learn quite a lot from them, but it's just like you just find it in times that people don't just take their advice and adapt it to their own lifestyle. It's just that they take that advice and try to be that person so difficultly, and it's like it just goes back to like what I was saying. It's just there's no in between. It's like you just want to conform to be like to think the same way, and it's just like anything that goes against your way of thinking, you're gonna argue it, but you're really just arguing something that you heard from a Joe Rogan podcast. And it's like there is just so much copy and paste in society, and we're lacking individuality. Where it's like it's okay to have an opinion. It's okay to, like, what I've also seen too is like people who listen to like Rogan or like any influencer. It's like they believe that they have to abide by their thinkings like law, and it's like you can have a good influencer that you listen to or a role model, but you are most certainly able to disagree with something that they preach. And you could be a spectrum. Again, it's not yes and no, it's not black and white. It's like you can agree with 20% of what someone says, you can agree with 30, 40, 50, 90, but never does it ever have to be like, oh, I need to 100% be on this side and 100% be on that side. And you find that very closely related to politics as well, which is why like it's so easy for like counter arguments to happen, where it's like if you stray a little bit off of like your political position, you're open to a lot of arguments from many sides. And that's why also like internal arguments happen within parties too, because it's impossible to live in a society where there's just black and white and then there's only two sides and there's two ways of thinking, because life is much more diverse and much more of a spectrum than it is just a like a binary code where there's just ones and zeros, yeses and nos, blacks and whites, nights and days. Because even night and day, there's midday, there's different, there's early morning, mid-morning, late morning, there's lunch, there's mid-afternoon, there's afternoon. Like, there's a spectrum for everything, and we're just really living a kind of like a binary life and a binary lifestyle where a lot of people, especially with social media, just does a terrible job, especially for the youth, but in general, it really does a terrible job in like diversifying like what we intake as knowledge. Ooh, sorry, I'm in an intersection. I'm gonna shut up for a second. My car got really close to hitting me. But yeah, it takes away quite a lot from like individuality and like creativity and like innovation. Like I mean, just like everything's just so copy and paste, and so like what these big influencers want, and it's like so trendy to just be like emotionless. Like, I remember a time before cell phones, before the Kardashians were like popular, like I remember when people had like emotion, and now it's like trendy to just be like this emotionless blase person. And it's like, dude, that's not what humanity is. That's not exciting. It's lacking emotion. And it's like, for some reason we have like vilified having emotion, where it's like you can kind of jump down a different rabbit hole too. And it's like, if you give your emotional self to society, like, you're gonna get burned a lot. So you got to be selective. Again, it's a spectrum. Everything's a spectrum. It's like you have to select who you show that side to. You can't show it to everybody. You're gonna get manipulated by some people. You're gonna get brought down by some people. You're gonna get rejected a lot. So it's like, in order for you to keep your inner balance, you have to select who sees that side. And ultimately, the more you grow, the lesser that circle where you show that side of yourself to becomes. And so going back to the fact that it's just, we're adapting to this kind of just boring, bland lifestyle, and these influencers just kind of dictate how people should be. And it's like, take the good with the bad, but have some individuality, and don't think that you have to just conform to society. You can be different. You can change a little bit. Like, you can be, if you're a macho Rogan guy, like, you can agree with 90% of it, but you can have a different side of yourself, and you don't have to like rinse, wash, and repeat arguments, because it's like, anyone with half a brain can just kind of like realize too that you're just rinse washing and spitting out what you heard. And it's like, if I ask you a question that diverts from the narrative of what you listen to, you won't know how to answer it. So it's like, I don't know, again, it's good to have knowledge, but just memorizing and regurgitating doesn't necessarily make you intellectual. It's really about, like, it's the same thing as like reading a book. If you just read a book, so then you can put on Snapchat that you read the book, okay, great, but let's ask you some questions about that book. When I read a book, sometimes it takes me a few months, because it's like, I like to digest things, like the things that challenge my train of thought. I'll sit and I'll think about them, and I'll relate to those thoughts in my life. One thing I could do better is probably write down and actually break down like what I read to and highlight things. I see a lot of people doing that, but it's like, life isn't just about remembering and spitting out, because honestly, I mean, and people aren't to blame. Like, by my logical thinking, there is no good and bad, right? So you have to look into the spectrum, and in the spectrum, it's like, that's what we're taught in school. We're taught to memorize, to spit out. We're taught to conform and to fit in. We're taught all these little things that we make life out of it, honestly. And it's just it's unfortunate that we're in this kind of society that strays so far away from individuality, innovation, and just an exciting, like, meaningful life. Like, it's a system by design to keep us at the bottom or in the middle. And believe it, when you're in the middle, you're actually in the bottom. If you don't want to believe that, then I don't know if you're just not privy to what is going on with the United States. If you're in the United States watching this video, but yeah, I mean, you just got to think different. Everything is about thinking different. Everything's about separating yourselves, and you're always the outlier until you're a genius. It's a great quote. I don't know who said it, but I think it was more so like you're always crazy until you're not. But I just kind of put my own spin to it. But the main premise is that like you're gonna look weird. You're gonna be strange. You're gonna be the different one. But once the results come in, the results show, it's like then people will start, ultimately people will start trying to conform and be like you too, which is, crazy, and it's not something that I would personally ever want. But that's what tends to happen. I think Tony Montana kind of phrased it pretty well too. It's like in this country, like first comes the money, then comes the power. Anyway, that's kind of my thoughts on certain things. A little philosophical drive. Yeah. Well, hope you guys liked the video.